Guys, these days there is like just so much going on every single day. It's easy to forget where we started the week. But it was Tuesday, just a few days ago, when VP Harris officially made her choice, Tim Walz as her running mate. I want to go around the horn and get reactions. David, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is it's actually not going to matter that much, truth be told. If we look at the last several elections, I think what you want out of a VP is somebody that the top of the ticket, a person that the top of the ticket feels comfortable with, somebody who can do well in the vice presidential debate, and somebody who won't hurt you. And I think by that standard, she did just fine in the decision. I do think, by contrast, I think with J.D. Vance, there might be some ways in which Vance will actually end up hurting Trump. But at the end of the day, one of the things that politics teaches us is that a lot of the hype and debate over vice presidential candidates doesn't actually matter that much at the end of the day.
But it does make a lot of news in the short term. Mary, we'll stick to Vance and Trump later on. Let's just think about VP Harris and her new running mate, Tim Walz. What do you think?
Okay, so I'm going to kind of disagree here because I think the excitement is valuable. I think having fun is valuable. And it is something that the Democrats were really struggling with profoundly like a month ago. I think also it's interesting to think about Walz and how he matches with Kamala Harris. And I say that because we talk a lot about vice presidential candidates and how they match in these kind of chessboard ways. Like it was between Josh Shapiro and Walz at the end, right? And people were talking about Walz as, Shapiro as like, oh, he'll bring Pennsylvania, right? Governor of Pennsylvania. I think Walz is a really different choice. He is this interesting yin-yang energy match. And I say that because he, as much as we think of Kamala Harris as having goofy internet energy, because that's what's been put out there, like her brat energy over the last few weeks, I think we're going to very soon see she actually has a very different energy. She has prosecutor energy. She has cop energy. And you see Tim Walz, he has teacher energy. He has coach energy. I think that's just so important. And it's an interesting match. And it's an interesting statement of what Kamala Harris herself thinks she needs. And so, this is really the first choice where we could see, like, what is Kamala Harris saying about herself? And now we know. And I think that makes it a really interesting choice.
But Mary, do you think there's any risk with this, what you started with, they bring the fun, right? Kamala Harris said it, they're joyful warriors. Is there a risk that fun isn't the right thing for the moment, right? Democrats are saying this is an election of a lifetime. Democracy is at risk, right? There are issues plaguing this country. If you think about foreign policy, the fact that it's almost a tinderbox, what's happening in the Middle East, is there a risk that the fun isn't the right tone for the moment?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I think we're very soon going to see the fun deflate. We have another couple weeks here. We're going to have the DNC in a couple weeks. That's going to be more fun all over again. We're going to see some sort of production. It's going to be interesting. My bet is like the theme is going to be freedom. Every night is going to be a different kind of freedom. Okay, we'll come back. We'll see if I got that right. But you saw this week when there was the rally in Detroit, Kamala Harris was interrupted by protesters who wanted to talk about the Middle East, and she shut them down. To me, this is a reminder that we have real differences of opinion here in this party. And I really think come September, come October, we're going to be talking about those. So I think the fun is going to come down. The other thing I keep remembering is a month ago, the feeling was very different. And to me, that's a reminder that things can change. While you're feeling all this excitement potentially right now, if you're a Democrat, that excitement is August excitement. It is not September, October, or November excitement. And that's important. You got to just remember things change. We don't know what's going to change, but I think the excitement level will certainly change.
Christina, what do you think?
Well, we have to remember that, Joe Biden decided not to run for re-election less than a month ago. So, Kamala Harris in many ways is still introducing herself to the American public as the top of the ticket and finding her footing. So as Mary said, this is the introductory phase where they do want it to be exciting. Walz has definitely energized the progressive wing of the Democratic base. Young people are really excited. As an educator, he definitely has educator energy, which I think is really important at this moment. I thought that she might choose Kelly because I thought, Sunbelt, border, that's one of her Achilles heels. But I think Walz really does balance her out really well with policy, especially since she's, as most presidents, Democrat and Republican, are seen as, moderate and centrist, because that's who we've typically elected. I do agree with Mary, though. This VP does matter. We have a woman of color at the top of the ticket. And so there are a lot of people who cannot vote for a woman. They can't vote for a person of color, and definitely not a woman of color. So having sort of a stable white man as the close number two definitely adds something to it. I don't think he detracts the way J.D. Vance does. J.D. Vance is giving strong Sarah Palin energy, where I think he could be really harmful. And I don't think his vetting process was really robust, because Donald Trump's entire strategy was just, I'm going to beat Biden because he's old. And Kamala Harris is coming with a very different strategy. They'll have to figure out how to deal with the very different colors of blue within the Democratic Party, who have very different visions, especially with international policy, which tends to not matter in the past, but now for this election, it really does matter. And so they'll have to get a better strategy and really a better policy to satisfy the myriad of opinions within the Democratic base.
John, Christina just said it. They are both, this collective ticket is moderate and centrist. Yet 3 days in, Republicans are painting the Harris-Walz combo as dangerously progressive, radically liberal, San Francisco liberals, most radical ticket in history.
Which is exactly what the Republicans would have said about a Joe Lieberman, Joe Manchin ticket, isn't it? Most radical left ticket in history. Hi, everyone. We've been doing this big political comedy tour all year, the Sexy Liberal Tour. And for a while, Stephanie, it was kind of turning into the Talk People Off a Ledge tour. On Sirius XM, my callers were 9-1 against President Biden stepping aside. And what we've witnessed in the last 3 weeks has been fascinating, these 2008 levels of energy and enthusiasm. And it's a fascinating pick. I'm the child of a public school teacher and coach. I never allowed myself to believe that Tim Walz, as progressive as he's become as governor, could ever be part of a ticket. I'm thrilled by it. I didn't think she'd go for him. And 70% of Americans don't know him, which represents a great opportunity for our Republican friends to frame a negative narrative around the guy. And they haven't been able to do it. The gang that couldn't smear straight has gone after this man in just a week on the Stolen Valor, which fell apart, Minneapolis rioting, well, here's a tape of Trump praising him, feminine products for kids in schools, which backfired because, an older man who cares about low-income girls is kind of nice, and he gave voting rights to felons. We're hearing this from people who are voting for a felon. Fun doesn't last forever in a marriage, right? But many successful marriages are built on it. And the joy you're seeing right now might serve to compensate for all the months and months of campaigning that we're not going to see. What Joe Biden did was the toughest thing I've ever seen a politician do. And now we found out this week he was negotiating the release of those Americans with his Slovenian counterpart within an hour while he had COVID. Donald Trump's Slovenian counterpart wouldn't even show up at his New York City trial for a day. If Kamala Harris wins, this will be a victory for Joe Biden as well.
David, John just mentioned Joe Manchin. We talk often about Democrats and this Big Ten party and how do you fit all of these people, all of these differing views under one tent. But from Joe Manchin to AOC, we're seeing Democrats across this country praise Tim Walz as a choice. AOC even described it as Dems in disconcerting levels of array, obviously versus their usual disarray. Do you think Democrats will be able to hold this together for the next 88 days?
I think as barring unexpected dramatic developments, I think that they will be able to hold it together because a couple of things here. One, I think a lot of people, a lot of political commentators, me included, just full disclosure, me included, we didn't anticipate the intangible element of hope. So if you look before Kamala Harris was named the nominee, and Joe Biden was still hanging on, there was no hope. There was a pretty firm conviction by basically everyone who had any real knowledge of the fundamental dynamics of this race that he was going to lose. And so once you go from hope, from no hope to hope, people are extraordinarily energized by that. There's an intangible element of that. And plus, it's a short race. This is not that long between now and the election. So there's a lot of time to maintain that momentum. The other thing that, again, mea culpa, I was not right about. I was somebody who thought maybe the Democrats should have a little mini primary. In other words, figure this all out at the convention. But the problem with that, of course, is that there's a risk of division as soon as you have more people in. And there's a lot of value in just going ahead and unifying right away, and particularly for the Democrats. And the reason why I say particularly for the Democrats is that they're a bigger coalition than the Trump coalition. And so, you know, if you're a smart Democrat, you know, wait, from 2016, where you won the popular vote, 2020, where you won the popular vote and the Electoral College, our coalition is just bigger. So if you can keep it together, you've got a great chance to win. And that's, of course, the challenge. How do you keep it together? But Harris and Walz have done it remarkably well so far. And it's hard to see, again, barring dramatic, unexpected developments, how you will see a material part of the Democratic coalition peeling off.